So hi, I'm Dean, and I'm going to talk about bundle performance in Next.js. So we at www.com use each W with a different ASCII, yes. We are a small startup, post-IPO. We have 5 happy hours a day and 1 sad hour. We are pro-protest, but we allow also to protest against those protests. We hire for all kinds of positions, but right now we are looking for a junior Next.js developer with 72 years of experience. We did have an industry disruption, so we had to cut down our workforce by 100%. So I technically don't work there anymore, but we are now 100% more efficient. So I'm going to show you a day at www.com. This is me, by the way, when I'm jacked up. So I can't show you the exact code because it's all very classified, but also open source. So I am going to show you an empty Next.js project. So this is our project. Okay, I'm running yarn dev. I'm going to my localhost, I'm hitting refresh, and hopefully it will work. Awesome. As you can see, it's loading and something is rendered. So my boss called me and told me our app is slow. Please fix it. So that's what I need to do. And we are going to do that now using you as my partners to fix a performance issue. So as you can see, we're refreshing, we see a loading, it takes time, and then it renders.
Hold on, Dave.
Sure.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
When you say slow, can you say how much milliseconds we can compare to the money we have?
Yeah, so as a developer, you should know.
Repeat the question.
Yeah, the question was, how slow is it? So basically, as you know, as developers, our boss calls us and tells us it's slow, and we need to figure out what the hell he wants or needs. So let's do it. Let's figure out what's the issue, and let's understand how to make it faster. But in general, we refresh, it takes time, and something renders. We want to make it faster. So going back to the slides, how do we handle a performance issue? So first step, we need to recognize and monitor the issue. So let's recognize and monitor the issue. So we think our boss talks about the loading state because it takes time. So we have some kind of recognize the issue. Now let's somehow monitor it. See if we can get a measure that says if we're good or bad. So if you can see down there, there's 2.5 megabytes of transfer size. That means that the client gets 2.5 megabytes of code before it runs, which is not good. And we can make it faster. So we have recognized the issue, and we have some kind of a monitoring of the issue using DevTools. So let's mark this as V. Now we need to prove that this is the issue. And let's prove it in the simplest and easiest way. In order to do that, let's go to the code. As I said, this is an empty Next.js project. But we do see here something which is strange. We do see here an awesome feature. So let's just comment it out, say, hit save, and hit refresh. So as you can see, we hit refresh, everything is fast now. So we have some kind of an easy way to figure out what's the issue, and the transfer size went down to 1.9 megabytes. So we have some kind of tracking, we have some kind of a proof that this is the issue. A client-side code is too big to be rendered. And right now, if we hit refresh, it's pretty fast. So if I hit refresh, you don't even see a change. So it's pretty fast now. So let's go to the next step. Let's suggest solutions. In order to suggest solutions, now we need to deep dive into the issue and understand the real issue behind it. So for that to be done, we need to check out what's awesome feature. So let's check out the code. So what we can see is a component, a React component, regular React component. It has use client, which means that this is a client-side component. We have an import for moment, which is a date library. Sorry?
Very big thing.
Yeah. So as you have said, moment is very big. Moment is a package that doesn't have tree shaking, which means that if we want to use a single function of moment, we have to download the entire moment library to the client side, to this component, in order for us to use it. So that's an issue. We see here import of a big, something that's called big. We do see it as a component, so it's a big component. We see a mounting callback that sets a state, uses a function from moment, and once the state is set, we render the big component. Otherwise, we render the string loading. So basically what we can do here, we can replace moment with something that is tree shakeable. We can use something that's less big than big. As we can see here, big is just a component of a string of lorem ipsum. So we might be able to talk to product team and talk them out of using this particular component. And we can also maybe change that to a server component in order for us not to download the entire code to the client. And there are many other ways to solve this. So we have suggested solutions, but now we need to fix. So let's be professional. Let's do it the professional way. We go to Next.js docs, and we see there, in order to really understand and solve bundle issues, we need to use something that's called Webpack Bundle Analyzer. Webpack Bundle Analyzer allows us to see the bundles in a very visual way. So we need to install the dependency, and then we need to use it. So I'm not going to install it because it's already in the dependencies. I'm just going to use it, going to the next config, pasting the import, using the function and wrapping our Next.js config, our next config. We save it. And now the only thing we need to do is to set the environment variable analyze to true in order to use it. So I'm just hitting analyze true and yarn build, hitting enter. And now what's going to happen is that Webpack is going to open up Webpack Bundle Analyzer with 3 new tabs. We have the first tab is Node.js, as you can see at the top. That's our server bundle. The second tab is Edge, but we don't have Edge APIs, so it's pretty empty. I'm going to close that. And we have a client bundle, right? So the client bundle is what's interfering. So we can see in visualization that the biggest square is the awesome feature component. So we recognize that this is the issue, and we need to make it smaller. The other big parts are the React, and also we have moment as a big square. So those are the big squares, and these are what we need to handle. Cool. So I'm going to use our suggestions, and I already opened a PR that's called cleanup. Let's see what it does. So basically, what it does is removes moment as a dependency. and uses something that's called dateFNS, which is tree shakeable, which means that the function that we use will only download the single function and not the entire package. We can see the usage. We can see the usage by importing only format. We can see that we removed the big component import and used something that's a small component. And this is the change from moment to the format of dateFNS. And the rendering of small instead of big component. This is the big component getting deleted, and the small component gets added. And this is the yarn lock update. So we don't care about that. So let's go to the code. Let's move to the branch. Now we're at the cleanup branch. Let's add bundle analyzer. So we're adding. I need to hit yarn because I changed my dependency. I used dateFNS instead of moment. And now I can, oh, sorry, what did I press? Something.
Press the pull request.
Yeah. Okay, let's hit analyze true and yarn build. And now we should get new tabs open for this specific compilation.
While we wait, a question.
Yeah, sure.
Pre-cleanup, the analyzer showed moment outside of awesome feature, but we use it in awesome feature.
Yeah, so each square is a chunk, so you can see that it downloads it in different parts. We don't see the relation between a component and a dependency, but we will talk about that in a sec. So we got 3 new tabs open. The middle one is the edge, which we still don't use, so we're closing that one. And we have a Node.js, which is the server, and we have the client. So we used to have this client bundle. Am I in the right one?
No, that's a node.
Yeah, we used to have this one, and awesome feature is the biggest one. But now we don't even see awesome feature here. We do see that React became the top, the biggest chunk, the biggest part. We do see a dateFNS part, but it's way less than moment. And if we really want to search specifically for awesome feature, we can do that using the search here. And we'll see that it's way, way, way smaller than what it was. So we now know that this is a great fix and everything is cool and we're awesome. But wait. So this actually really easy to solve when I'm a single developer in a single team, in a single company. But what happens when www.com will rehire everyone in the universe and will have multiple developers, and each one of them will want to add a moment as a dependency. This will create the same issue, and we will need to tackle it again. Plus, performance issues are getting issues over time. So each developer adds some code, and each time the bundle gets a little bit bigger. And once the boss realizes that this is an actual issue that we need to handle it, then it's an issue, a real issue that we need to reverse engineer. What's the real feature that causes the issue, and try to figure out how to solve it. So in order to solve that issue, the scalability issue of performance issues, we have an open source project called init. So I'm going to show you init. Basically, the adding of init is really, really easy. You just add the dependency, just as we saw bundle analyzer, and the usage of the requiring in the next config. So I'm going to remove bundle analyzer, which is not a must. You can use also with the regular bundle analyzer if you want to. But basically, this is it. This is it. This is the integration. And what does it give us? So first thing that we can see that it gives us is this great UI of init, which tells us over time the sizes of our bundles. So we can see here two graphs, one for the server-side bundles and one for the client-side bundles, compilation. We can see here a very big bump, which we can understand that this commit specifically adds a lot of data. So really easily, we can go down to the specific part and just open up the bundle analyzer of it, and we don't rely on local builds. This is the actual CI build, the actual production build. So this is the real deal and real data. So we don't.
Like the history of the.
Yeah, that's the history of all the bundles of all commits. Each point is a commit in time, which we can go back to and analyze the bundles. But what's so once I integrated the code, when the build is happening, it sends the stats file, the Webpack stats file, to the init server for it to analyze and store for later analyzation. But we also we have a different button called diff with previous version. So when we try to compare two bundles in two different versions, it's very hard. The squares are all messed up, and each change can make it difficult, way more difficult. But this here is a view that helps us understand only the diff. So we can see that in this specific commit, we only added a component called big and only added the moment package. So it's really easy to understand what happened. Plus, we also have the dependency. I'm not sure if I'm clicking the right.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So this is the dependency graph. So we can understand that we have our source code and we rely on Next. And we can see the dependencies, and we can understand when we eliminate a dependency, what will happen to our entire bundle. Plus, we can also change the branch. So here we have, this is the cleanup branch, one up. So we can compare the build of a specific PR or specific branch to our master. So when we did the cleanup, we need to figure out if it helps or if it doesn't help. So here we can see that the big component gets deleted, moments gets deleted, and we add the small component and data finesse. It's really easy to understand how our PRs affect the bundles. And of course, the dependency graph. Plus, it works on real graphs of real projects. So if we take a huge project like this, it will eventually realign the node models and we'll get something like this. And we now can understand that if we remove the Nivo dependency, it will remove the entire dependency that rely on Nivo. So it's really easy to help us to understand how to remove big dependency which affects the bundle way harder. Cool. So this is one thing that init gives us. The other thing that init gives us is the init config. So I'm going to move to the code. And I have init config here. We can add, we can choose not to add, but when we add one, we can track files within our disk directory. If we have images or bundles or JS files or whatever, we can track them and see them in the graph. We can also specify limits for them. So here I specified that I want every single server chunk not to be above 1 megabytes. Or I do want to have a limit for page components not to be above 10 kilobytes, or not to be above 10% of the last commit. So if there is a big change, it will fail my build, and I will not be able to commit unless I use force merge or something like that. Plus, I have the prohibited and inhibited models. So if I want to add moment as a prohibited model, I just add it here, and now no one can add moment anymore unless it changes the config file. So this will actually solve our entire issue with scalability of multiple developers. Thank you so much. You can ask questions now. I didn't know which icon to put because I don't know. So this is my handler. Yeah, questions?
This is a really cool presentation.
Thank you.
I'm having some issues with the code being sent to their server. Like, they have access to all my code base?
Yeah, so the only thing that's being sent is the stats file of Webpack, which is actually the sizes and the entire way it's being compiled, the bundle. But if you're not comfortable, it's open source. You can install it on your server, and you can actually tell it which server to send the data into. So you can just put it on your server and your database. Hey, okay, yeah.
Don't use React.
Yeah, so the question was, we see in the bundle analyzer that React is the biggest chunk, the biggest part of our bundle. Is there any way to make it smaller? So there are ways. One of them is use something different from React, like Preact or something which is way less big. The other way to resolve that is to make it externalized. So that's way it's being downloaded through a different CDN or a different way. I'm sure there are, like you can do a server generated code, like static code, and then you really don't need to use React, but only server-side rendering. That's what I can think of, but I'm sure there are many other ways. Specifically React, or which? Oh, you mean init specifically? So the question was, is there any reason that init isn't a dev dependency? I think it is. I'm not sure. Let's see. Yeah, it is. So basically, yes, it's a dev dependency, and you need to make it dev dependency. Yeah.
And is there a way to integrate it, instead of integrating it as a part of your code, maybe integrate it in a CI step?
Yeah, you can.
Do it like as a GitHub action that takes the code, runs static analysis over it?
Yeah, so basically the question is, why do I have to integrate it with code? You don't have to. There's a GitHub action with a bot that does this entire thing. It's in the next init docs. Try it out. If something doesn't work, just open an issue and yeah.
What's the repository's name again?
Init. Init is the in-it, and yeah, the repository name.
Who is behind in it?
Yeah, I'm in it. Yeah. Yeah, that's why I got fired from download.com. So, thank you.